Today's show is brought to you by CBRE. CBRE is the #1 agency lender in the U.S. Their loans offer great features such as non-recourse debt, up to 80% leverage, and interest-only periods, all at the market's most competitive rates. To find out more and get a special deal only available to Old Dog listeners, go to www.cbquote.com/podcast. That's the letter C and the letter B, quote.com/podcast.
This episode of the Old Dogs REI Network is brought to you by Mino Studio. Welcome to the Old Dogs REI Network, where cash flow is king. Real estate investing, the means, so you can enjoy your retirement dreams. This is the show where we cut right to the chase. No sales pitch, no long monologues, just simple how-to real estate investing advice, so you can earn the passive income you need to enjoy your retirement today. And now, your host and chief old dog, Bill Manassero.
Hello, old dogs, and welcome to
Fun Facts Friday.
This is our once-a-week, only on Friday show, where we have special episodes not featuring guests, where I will share tricks, tips, terminology, and techniques that will help skyrocket you to real estate investing success. Today's topic is knowing when to walk away from a deal. But before we get started, hey, I just want to touch base with you guys and say, hey, I hope everyone is doing well with your real estate investing goals, and just encourage you to keep moving forward. Now, this episode we're going to touch on today may seem a little discouraging, but part of our commitment on this show is to be able to show you, the good, bad, and the ugly. I want to be able to share experiences that I have that may not be the best experience, but it's something that you hopefully learn from. I'm going to go ahead. We're going to move right into it today. Not any special announcements to make. I do want to let you know I am on the road right now. As I'm recording this, I'm in Memphis, and I am trying to move the process forward. I have a turnaround that's been sort of dragging here, so I'm here doing everything I can, including painting cabinets and doing things like this, that just to try to speed along the process so that we can get duplex, one side turned around so that we can move forward and get some tenants in there. From here, I go to Indianapolis, where I'll do similar things, also having to deal with some of the boots on the ground folks as well. Okay, well, on to our topic, knowing when to walk away from a deal. And as I mentioned, this is one of those things that as you start to get involved more and more in real estate investing, you're going to be dealing with the sellers or brokers or middle people. There's a lot of folks that you may deal with as you're trying to acquire properties. You are going to get to the point where you're going to have to make an offer. Well, I recently had an experience, and this was a 61-unit apartment building in Indianapolis that came to me from a broker who I didn't know, but he contacted me based on someone in his office who happens to be a listener to the podcast here. And she knew a project that he had, and recommended that he contact me, and that we might be interested because we are already in Indianapolis. So this guy is a great guy named Corey, and he contacted me, told me about the project. It sounded, very intriguing. A couple of issues. It was not meeting our criteria right up front, but I wanted to listen and find out more. So I asked for the T12s and the current rent roll, which is one of the first things that you want to do when you come across a project that may be of interest to you, whether it's a multifamily or a smaller, even single family home that has a rental history. So I started my looking at this, and found out that this is a project that was very close to my 22 unit. I know that area, so that was a real plus. I know what to expect in that area. I know a lot about the market, the the potential tenant base, some of the challenges of the area. As I started to research more and more, I found out that they actually have an on-site property management team, which was very interesting because 61 units usually isn't enough to warrant that. But it was a special arrangement that was made between the current owner and the property management firm, which allowed them to have some folks on site, which also allowed them to do a very aggressive sort of turnaround on this property. The owner had this property for less than a year, so that was sort of maybe a first little red flag that I got, that I thought, well, why does he want to get rid of it so quickly? Especially since it didn't seem like there was a lot of major renovations done, but they did do sort of a major turnaround. I think half of the residents of the apartment building were evicted, and all of this happened within a less than a 1 year period. So that was pretty interesting. Some details on the property. It was listed as a 1970 property, made in 1970, all brick, very solid construction. He was initially asking, I think, 2.1, which still is 2,100,000, which was, again, fairly low cost if you look at per unit. So that, was again sort of maybe not a red flag, but it was off market, so it could have been just a better deal. But I also figured there had to be some other factors in there. I started looking into it. We did a lot of background checks on folks that were involved in the project, did all the county research, a lot of things to find out the history. I was basically I contacted the broker that contacted me to get information to help make the decision. We said it would be a good deal if we could negotiate it down to this amount, and we basically they accepted an offer at 1.75, so quite a significant reduction. We started talking more and more. We found out that hey, there's some good potential here. We ended up signing a contract, and with plenty of contingencies, which is key, especially for multifamily. You want to have the contingencies in there because you usually don't find out the bulk of the information from a project like that until you've signed the contract and you can send an inspector and get some of the other documents from the seller that normally aren't released in advance. So we went ahead and started moving forward with this, and usually the contingencies are in various areas, but like for documents and inspection and financing, things along those lines, that provided those things work out well, then you go through with the deal. Of course, there's an earnest money deposit. They asked for a lot more. We gave a lot less than they asked for. So we were able to move forward on this. One of the factors was the owner was working directly with a pretty major brokerage firm that sells apartments, and they have a unit, or I don't know if it's an official division of this brokerage, but they basically do their own financing packages. They're like a mortgage broker, so to speak. And so they approached us, among many other folks that I know that are mortgage brokers, regarding the lending for this. In addition, I talked to my syndication attorney and to let them know that we're looking at this project, and if we go ahead on it, that we'll be doing a syndication. But we really didn't want to announce it to our investor base, and I think one of the main reasons for that is because we wanted to make sure that it had all the key components there, and it starts with really getting the documents up front, and then the inspection comes, and then so all these factors are going in there. But in the process, we're also looking for loans, and we're also talking to the syndication attorney and our other folks that are part of our team. And we had already put together a management team for the project that would be part of the main managers of this project. I think one of the key elements here is that we, as far as the funding part of it, is we found the funding most favorable from the broker. Even though I had some great offers from other mortgage brokers, they had the best deal. It was a non-recourse loan, something like 4.36%. I asked for 3 years of interest only payments on it. I got 2 years, 30-year amortization, a very, very nice package that was real tough to meet. It was, of course, a Freddie product, a Freddie Mac. And so, a lot of things were going very well, very well. And then we got into the inspection. And in the inspection, basically, we found out some things that were pretty disturbing. Nothing... Well, yeah, I should say nothing real critical, but obviously something that caused us to think twice about this deal. We also found out that the project wasn't really built in 1970. We found that out pretty quickly, actually. It was actually built in 1946, and that was very disturbing that they would give us that kind of information, which is not a good way to start off. And so so we're starting to get these red flags, a few things that just started to throw us off a little bit. There's also the question about the owner. Why is he getting rid of this property in such a short period of time? Now, it's not uncommon that people flip apartment buildings, and that's something that's happening even probably more so now than I've seen in the past. But you'll have some people that'll pick it up and they'll do nothing to it, and then they'll just flip it. But he did do a few things in this, one of which was to turn around the current tenant base, which really helped out, brought it up to over 90% occupancy. There were apparently some real, sort of unfavorable tenants in there that were in there before. Also, he changed a roof out. He redid a roof. But there wasn't a lot of stuff that he did within that time period. But the major thing is really the turnaround. And as I talked to the property manager, I got access to meet him and find out more. I mean, they had a huge bed bug problem, a lot of things that they had to tackle that they successfully overcame. So, there were some issues that were in there that I was looking at. The property had a lot of good potential, a lot of good things going for it. Obviously, by the title of this podcast, you know that we walked away, and the reason being is that we found a lot of deferred maintenance capital expenditures that were not done by this guy that we knew we would have to tackle. Most of the roofs, there was one roof that was actually, or should I say, like half of a roof that was really good. There's 3 huge buildings, and one he had paid, I guess, $60,000 to redo, and they did a really bad job because there was not a sort of a contours to the roofing, even though they had this membrane on top. All the water was collecting like a swimming pool, and it was beautiful new job that had been done, but they didn't do it right, and so the water was not flowing off the roof into the drains. So that would have to be fixed, and most of the roofing experts that I spoke to when I went there for the inspection basically said that it would have to be redone. That's another huge expense, plus the roofs that were already in tough shape on the others. We are talking redoing 3 roofs there, and that is a very huge expense. And as we went down, there were a lot of other issues that we encountered. Each unit had problems with their electrical outlets would all have to be switched out. Most of them didn't have simple things like smoke alarms and things like that. But there was also a huge sort of covered parking area that really looked like it should have been condemned, and that would have had to been torn down. So that's a pretty significant expense. I guess we got estimates at around $50,000. So when we added all these things up that came out with the inspection, we found out that we really were looking for like a $500,000 in incentives here or reduction in price in order to make this deal work. Now, we would have taken less, it's because there are a lot of things in there that we didn't mind doing, things that were not major issues, but the major ones, at least half of that amount would have had to be compensated to us in one way or another, and through price reduction. Basically, they were not willing to do that, and that basically was the deal killer right there. I had some earnest money that I saw that if I didn't respond within the time frame that we had on the contract, that I could lose. So I looked at the situation. We countered with the results of the inspection, and they didn't respond favorably. So we, at that point, we pulled out of the deal. We basically said, no, we're not going to go forward.
Hey, old dogs. You can find the best off-market properties at below market value and within a hot emerging market, and think you've found a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. But without good financing, all that great stuff means nothing. However, our new sponsor, CBRE, may be the solution. CBRE has the loan for your next refinance, acquisition, or value-add project. CRE is the #1 agency lender, and their loans offer great features such as non-recourse debt, which, unlike most banks, means your exposure is limited to the property only and not your personal assets. They also offer you 80% leverage and interest-only periods, which can help you maximize your cash flow or pull out more equity. CBRE's loans also offer the market's most competitive rates. In addition to traditional mortgages, their short-term bridge loan platform provides access to competitive financing for your rehab, renovation, and value-add projects that might need a little extra TLC before you get a permanent mortgage. And get this, CBRE is offering Old Dog listeners a $3,500 credit towards closing costs. That's right, $3,500 off your closing costs. You can lock in the credit and receive an instant quote by visiting www.cbquote.com/podcast. That's the letter C and the letter B, quote.com/podcast. See what CBRE can do for you and lock in your credit today at www.cbquote.com/podcast.
That was it. In the short run, I was able to get my earnest money back, but I still had to pay the price of the inspection. And for a 61 unit, and we literally walked through all 61 units. It was a week-long process being there, going through this building like a fine-tooth comb and looking at every aspect of it. Found out it was not a good deal. So, we walked away. We lost, it was about $8,000 for the inspection. So that I lost, but I think it was better than losing hundreds of thousands later if I did not walk away from the deal. Now, if we took, I think he offered us like $20,000 off or something, but it was really ridiculous. But the whole deal and the process, I realized that if these were the deferred capital expenditures that we found, that there may be some other hidden surprises there that we didn't know about, and it's possible you can do an inspection and still miss things. So we figured, we think it's better to walk away and move on. So one of the hardest things you can do as an investor really is to walk away from a deal. You want to do it. You go into it with the intention, if you put it under contract, that this would be good. I saw great potential in this. I know the area. I know we could have upped the rents. I know we could have done some light rehab in the units and brought them up to where they're supposed to be. But without the right price, it didn't make any sense. Some of the best deals you'll ever make are the ones you don't get involved in. Recovering from a bad property will not only cost you money, but it will also be the focus of your business for several weeks and permit you from moving forward. Having the knowledge and discipline to walk away from a deal, really, it makes sense, and it's a big part of real estate investing. Is don't get too attached to your properties. There are a lot of reasons why we do the inspections and why we do all the due diligence and all the documents we went through and all the other parts of the due diligence that you do for a reason, and that is to make sure you've got a good deal. And at the price that we had initially negotiated, it was not a good deal. We did the right thing, and I think it definitely makes sense to us. Not every deal is going to be a home run. If you see things that have changed since your inspection, you need to reevaluate the deal and the property to see if the numbers still work. And for us, they didn't. So, walk away without regret. It's, don't get too attached to these properties, and you'll be happier down the road. Well, that is it for today. Everything I've presented here and some of these notes and what have you will be in our show notes on the Old Dogs website at olddogsreinetwork.com. Look for the episode entitled Knowing When to Walk Away from a Deal. So until next time, remember, cash flow is king and real estate investing the means. Thanks again for listening, and may God bless.
Thank you very much for visiting the Old Dogs REI Network. We would greatly appreciate if you would stop by iTunes and let us know what you think of the show. We would love if you could subscribe to the podcast, give us a 5-star rating, and write a review. The more ratings and reviews we receive, the more visible the podcast will be to others. Thank you.